The darkness was always there, lurking just beyond the flickering candlelight. I grew accustomed to its presence, yet it never truly felt like home. I had spent years studying the ancient rituals, poring over dusty tomes in forgotten libraries and crumbling manuscripts hidden away in attics. My name is Ilara, and I've dedicated my life to understanding the forbidden arts. The ritual texts spoke of a hunger, an insatiable craving that drove those who dabbled too deep into the abyss. The whispers of the ancients warned of a creature born from darkness, forged in the fires of human sacrifice and primal fears. I had always been drawn to the unknown, my curiosity burning brighter with each passing year. And now, as I delved deeper into the mysteries of ceremonial magic, I felt an unsettling presence stirring within me. It started with small things, a shiver down the spine when reading incantations aloud, or an inexplicable sense of dread that settled over my shoulders like a shroud. I brushed it off as nerves, but deep down, I knew something was awakening. The words, "The Wendigo's Hunt," were scribbled on the margins of one particularly ancient text, a discovery that set the wheels in motion for an event that would change my life forever. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unblinking eyes followed me as I navigated the labyrinthine corridors of academia. The sense of isolation deepened, and with it, a growing unease. And so, I began to unravel the threads of an ancient legend, weaving them into a tapestry of terror that threatened to consume me whole. The darkness closed in, its presence now palpable. The hunt had begun, and I was both eager and terrified to see where it would lead. This is my story, a descent into the very heart of madness, where the lines between reality and nightmare are blurred beyond recognition. As I delved deeper into the mysteries of ceremonial magic, my obsession grew. The words Wendigo and hunger echoed in my mind like a mantra, driving me to uncover the truth behind the ancient legend. I spent countless hours poring over dusty texts, searching for any mention of the creature. It was as if the more I learned, the more I realized how little I knew. The air seemed to thicken with an eerie presence, as if the shadows themselves were watching my every move. I began to experience strange occurrences, candles flickering on their own, whispers in the darkness that only I could hear, and the unmistakable feeling of being stalked. At first, I wrote it off as mere paranoia, but the events grew more frequent and more intense. I started to feel a presence lurking just beyond the edge of perception, a malevolent force that seemed to be drawn to me like a moth to flame. The words, "The Wendigo's Hunt," began to appear on my notes, scribbled in a handwriting that wasn't mine. It was as if an unseen hand was guiding me towards some unknown destiny. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew something was amiss. The line between reality and nightmare began to blur, and I found myself questioning what was real and what was just a product of my fevered imagination. One night, as I sat hunched over my notes, the candle flame danced in the draft from the window, casting eerie shadows on the walls. That's when I saw it, a figure standing just beyond the edge of perception, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. The presence coalesced into a figure, tall and imposing, its skin deathly pale, with eyes that seemed to bore into my very soul. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest as the figure began to move closer. I knew then that I was not alone and that the darkness was closing in around me. I received an invitation to participate in a secretive ritual, shrouded in mystery and promises of forbidden knowledge. The enigmatic figure, known only as the Archon, claimed to possess secrets about the Wendigo that no one else knew. I couldn't resist the allure of the unknown, and soon found myself standing at the threshold of a portal that led to a hidden world. As I entered, the air grew thick with an otherworldly energy, and I felt my senses being drawn apart like threads in a tapestry. The Archon led me through a series of trials, each one designed to test my resolve and push me to the limits of my sanity. I was forced to confront my deepest fears, to dance with darkness, and to surrender to forces beyond my control. With each step, I felt myself becoming more entranced, more enthralled by the secrets that the Archon promised to reveal. And yet, with every step, I also felt a growing sense of unease, as if I was being drawn into a web of deceit and manipulation from which there was no escape. The final trial took place in a chamber filled with strange symbols and artifacts that seemed to pulse with a malevolent life of their own. The Archon stood at the center, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly intensity as it revealed the secrets of the Wendigo. I listened, transfixed, as the creature's true nature was laid bare before me. And in that moment, I knew that I had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. The darkness closed in around me, and I felt myself being consumed by an abyss of madness and despair. As I delved deeper into the world of ceremonial magic, the boundaries between reality and madness began to blur. The secrets revealed by the Archon had unlocked a door in my mind, but it was also a doorway to darkness and despair. I started to experience a growing sense of isolation, as if I was cut off from the world around me. My perceptions became distorted, and I began to doubt my own sanity. I would see things that weren't there, hear whispers in the wind, and feel a creeping sense of dread that seemed to seep into every pore of my being. The more I learned, the more I felt like I was losing myself. I would try to talk to others about what I had experienced, but they would look at me with a mixture of concern and fear. They didn't understand what I was going through, and I couldn't explain it to them. I felt like I was trapped in a living nightmare, with no escape from the horrors that lurked in every shadow. The curse of the Wendigo had taken hold, and I was powerless to resist its grip. I knew that I had to keep moving forward, but the further I went, the more lost I became. My sense of identity was slipping away, like sand between my fingers. I was no longer sure who I was or what I wanted. All I knew was that I had to keep searching for answers, no matter how much it hurt. As I delved deeper into the world of ceremonial magic, my obsession with the Wendigo legend led me to explore interstellar travel, seeking answers about the supernatural entity that haunted the cosmos. I stumbled upon an ancient alien landscape that held secrets about the Wendigo's origins. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and the sky was a deep, bloody red. I wandered through the barren wasteland, searching for any sign of life or clues to the Wendigo's existence. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the sound of my own footsteps and the rustling of unknown creatures in the distance. I felt like a ghost haunting the surface of this desolate world, searching for answers that might never come. As I explored the alien landscape, I began to realize that the Wendigo was not just a legend, but a doorway to other dimensions and realms. The further I traveled, the more I felt my own identity slipping away, like sand between my fingers. I was no longer sure who I was or what I wanted, only that I had to keep searching for answers. The ritualistic deprivation of this alien world was taking its toll on me, but I pressed on, driven by a madness that seemed to consume me from the inside out. I knew that I was playing with forces beyond my control, but I couldn't stop now. The Wendigo's secrets were too alluring, too seductive. I had to know the truth, no matter what the cost. During a solo expedition on a remote planet, the protagonist encounters the Wendigo for the first time. The creature's presence sends shockwaves through their mind and body, leaving them shaken and confused. As I stood on the barren surface of the alien world, I felt a creeping sense of dread that I couldn't shake. Suddenly, the air seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy, and I sensed a presence behind me. I spun around, my heart racing, and that's when I saw it, the Wendigo. Its eyes glowed like embers from a dying fire, and its presence was like a cold wind that cut through my very soul. The creature's face was twisted into a grotesque grimace, as if it were perpetually screaming in agony. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. My mind reeled with terror as the Wendigo began to move towards me, its pace slow and deliberate. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. The creature's hot breath washed over me, carrying with it a stench that was both familiar and yet utterly alien. I knew then that I had stumbled into something far bigger than myself, something that threatened to consume me whole. The Wendigo's presence was like a cancer, spreading its dark influence through every cell of my being. I felt my grip on reality begin to slip, as if I were staring into the abyss and seeing nothing but darkness back at me. As I continued to explore the mysteries of the Wendigo, I was forced to confront the darker aspects of human nature. The creature's presence seemed to awaken a part of me that had long been suppressed, and I began to question whether the pursuit of knowledge was worth the cost to my sanity and relationships. Every step forward felt like a betrayal of everything I once believed in, as if I was abandoning my soul for the sake of understanding the unknown. The Wendigo's power was intoxicating, drawing me in with promises of forbidden secrets and ancient wisdom. But at what price? With each new discovery, I felt myself becoming increasingly isolated from those around me. My friends and family grew concerned about my behavior, but I couldn't explain to them the depths of my obsession. The Wendigo's influence was spreading, insidious and slow, until I could feel its presence lurking just beneath the surface of my thoughts. I began to wonder if I was becoming one with the creature, if my very essence was being consumed by its dark energy. The more I learned, the more I realized that some secrets were better left unspoken, that some knowledge was too terrible to be had. And yet, I couldn't stop now. I was addicted to the thrill of discovery, to the rush of power that came with uncovering the truth. It was a vicious cycle, one that threatened to destroy me from the inside out. But I couldn't resist the allure of the Wendigo's darkness, no matter how much it seemed to be devouring my soul. The protagonist's grip on reality begins to slip as they become increasingly consumed by the legend of the Wendigo. They start to experience vivid hallucinations and disorienting visions that blur the lines between reality and nightmare. The world around them begins to distort, like a reflection in rippling water. Every step feels like a journey into the depths of madness. The air is thick with the scent of decay and corruption, and the shadows seem to writhe and twist on the walls. The protagonist's mind is a maelstrom of conflicting emotions, torn between the desire for knowledge and the fear of being consumed by the Wendigo's darkness. They are trapped in a never-ending cycle of terror and fascination, unable to escape the legend's grasp. The world outside recedes, and all that remains is the abyssal void of their own making. In this twilight realm, the protagonist becomes lost in a labyrinth of reflections, forever chasing the elusive truth that haunts them. The Wendigo's presence is everywhere, its dark energy seeping into every pore, corroding their sense of self. They are a pawn in a game they don't understand, forced to play out a dance with forces beyond their control. As the darkness closes in, the protagonist realizes that some secrets are better left unspoken, and that the price of knowledge may be too high to pay. The line between reality and nightmare is erased, leaving only an eternal void where sanity once dwelled. During a catastrophic event, the protagonist discovers an ancient ritual manual that reveals the true nature of the Wendigo. It's a cosmic entity born from human suffering, driven by an insatiable hunger for destruction. The realization sends them spiraling into madness. As they delve deeper into the manual's pages, they become increasingly enthralled by the darkness within. The words on the page seem to shift and writhe like living things, whispering secrets in a language that only the mad can understand. The protagonist's mind is consumed by visions of desolate landscapes and twisted forests, where the trees themselves appear to be writhing in agony. They hear the distant howls of the Wendigo, its presence echoing through their very being like a death knell tolling in their mind. The ritual manual becomes an obsession, a compendium of forbidden knowledge that holds the secrets of the cosmos within its yellowed pages. As they read on, the protagonist's grip on reality begins to slip further and further away. They start to see the world around them as a twisted reflection of the horrors contained within the manual's pages. The lines between reality and nightmare are blurred beyond recognition, leaving only a void of madness that seems to have no bottom. The realization that they are not alone in their descent into madness sends shivers down their spine. They know they are being watched by unseen forces, drawn into a realm where sanity is just a distant memory. As the darkness closes in, the protagonist knows they will never be able to escape the abyss of madness that has claimed them whole. As the protagonist delves deeper into the ritual manuals, they find themselves trapped in a never-ending cycle of self-destruction. They are forced to confront their own darkest fears and desires, which seem to writhe and twist like living things within them. The rituals and incantations required to appease the Wendigo become an endless loop of pain and suffering, each step leading to more darkness and despair. The protagonist's mind is consumed by visions of twisted, alien landscapes that defy comprehension. They see cities built on mountains of skulls, rivers flowing with blood, and skies filled with a sickly yellow haze that seems to sear their very soul. The Wendigo's presence grows stronger with each passing moment, its hunger for destruction feeding off the protagonist's own fears and doubts. As they struggle to maintain their grip on reality, the protagonist realizes that they are being forced to confront the darkest aspects of their own psyche. They see themselves as a monstrous, twisted thing, driven by an insatiable hunger for destruction and chaos. The ritual manuals become a mirror, reflecting back at them the horrors they have unleashed upon the world. With each passing moment, the protagonist feels their very essence being torn apart, their sense of self disintegrating into nothingness. They are lost in a realm of eternal darkness, with no escape from the abyss that has claimed them whole. The Wendigo's presence is all that remains, its malevolent energy echoing through the void like a death knell tolling in their mind. The protagonist's journey culminates in a confrontation with the Wendigo itself. However, instead of finding answers, they discover that the entity is not just a monster, but a reflection of humanity's collective dark nature. The Wendigo's form shifts and ripples like a living mirror, revealing the darkest aspects of human psychology. The protagonist sees themselves and others, their own fears, desires, and flaws reflected back at them like a twisted funhouse mirror. The entity's eyes burn with an otherworldly intensity, piercing through the veil of sanity to reveal the abyss that lies within every human heart. As the protagonist gazes into the Wendigo's face, they realize that it is not just a monster, but a manifestation of humanity's collective guilt, shame, and despair. The entity's presence is both repulsive and mesmerizing, drawing the protagonist in with an inexorable force. They feel their own darkness stirring, awakening from its slumber like a beast unleashed from a cage. The Wendigo's true nature becomes clear. It is not just a monster, but a symbol of humanity's capacity for cruelty, destruction, and self-destruction. The entity's existence is a grim reminder that the darkness within us all is always waiting to be unleashed. As the protagonist confronts this terrible truth, they are forced to confront their own role in perpetuating this cycle of violence and suffering. Will they find a way to overcome their own darkness, or will they succumb to the abyss that lies within? The Wendigo's true nature hangs in the balance, a reflection of humanity's collective soul. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the protagonist realizes that the Wendigo's eternal hunger cannot be satiated by human sacrifice alone. It has evolved into an existential threat to the fabric of reality itself. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance as the protagonist is left to confront the abyssal horrors that lurk within. The darkness closes in around them, a living entity that feeds on their fear and despair. They feel the weight of existence bearing down upon them, the crushing pressure of an infinite void that threatens to consume everything in its path. The protagonist's mind reels as they attempt to comprehend the true nature of the Wendigo's hunger. It is not just a physical need, but a metaphysical one, a hunger for the very fabric of reality itself. As they struggle to come to terms with this realization, the protagonist is faced with an impossible choice: to succumb to the abyss or to find a way to appease the Wendigo's eternal hunger. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance, and the protagonist must make a decision that will determine the course of history. The darkness closes in, a living entity that feeds on their fear and despair. They feel the weight of existence bearing down upon them, the crushing pressure of an infinite void that threatens to consume everything in its path. In this desolate landscape, the protagonist must confront the ultimate horror, the realization that they are not just fighting for their own survival, but for the survival of humanity itself. The Wendigo's eternal hunger is a constant reminder that there are forces beyond human comprehension, forces that lurk in the shadows and wait to strike. The protagonist must find a way to appease this hunger, or risk being consumed by it forever. As they stand at the precipice of this abyss, the protagonist must make a choice: to step forward into the unknown, or to turn back and succumb to the darkness that has been awakened within them. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance, and the protagonist's decision will determine the course of history. Will they find a way to appease the Wendigo's eternal hunger, or will they succumb to the abyssal horrors that lurk within?